No doubt, during the current economic uncertainty in our city, most Calgarians are happy to look forward to what the future might hold. However, uncertainty and hardship is nothing new to our city. Originally founded in 1875 by the Northwest Mounted Police and coined Fort Brisbois, what eventually evolved into the city of Calgary has certainly seen its fair share of growth and change. From the region's first sawmill on the Bow River, the building of a railway station, to the influence of the whiskey trade, many factors put Calgary on the map during the period of colonialism. Today, with the help of the Lougheed House, we take a deeper look at what life would have been like for those earliest residents of what is now our city, the challenges they faced, triumphs reached, and how the marks they left still live on today. Hey Calgary, I'm Kevin Chorney. Thanks for joining us tonight. This evening, we're going to talk about, well, the history of Calgary. More specifically about, late 1800s Calgary, and I'm joined by Caroline Loewen, as well as Bill Rennie from the Lougheed House. Thanks to both of you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's our pleasure.
Maybe I'll start with you, Caroline. Tell me about your role at the Lougheed House and how things are going these days over there.
Things are going great.
That's great.
Yeah, so I'm the curator of the house.
Yeah.
So the house is a historic house. We're a historic house museum, so that means we have collections and archives as well. So we've got about 1,500 historical objects and a library and archives in the basement. And so I am in charge of taking care of those objects and the archives and developing exhibitions for the show.
So you're pretty busy.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work. 1,500. Wow, that's a bit.
It's a big job for one person, but we make it work.
You enjoy it. It's your passion, fair to say?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it is.
Excellent. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Bill, a bit about yourself. Now you look very sharp. By the way, first and foremost.
Thank you very much. I'm the Edwardian gentleman, and the Edwardian period is obviously named after King Edward, who was Queen Victoria's son, and he was on the throne from 1901 to 1910. And that's kind of the period I'm trying to represent here. But the role I play with Lougheed House, I'm one of their volunteer historical interpreters.
Okay.
And what that really means is I get to talk to all the guests that come and give them, relay information to them about the house, lead them on tours, answer their questions.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. For someone like me who kind of likes to chat, it's almost a dream role. And I got into this historical interpreting, retired a couple of years ago, and my wife said, you need to find something to get out of my house for a few hours a week. Yeah. So this is one of the things I've picked up.
How long have you been doing it for now?
I joined the team here with Lougheed House in January.
Okay.
But last summer I volunteered at Heritage Park.
Oh, cool.
And if you ever come to the grain elevator, on a Saturday, you'll probably find me, and I can tell you a very different story about Calgary and Alberta's early history.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it sounds like I'm in good company then tonight. Thanks to you both again. Caroline, I'd like to start with you.
Sure.
So currently at the Lougheed House, there's an exhibit that's coined Getting on the Map.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about this.
So we wanted to do something to celebrate Canada's 150th. So we had a bit of a brainstorming meeting and we were chatting. What was going on in Calgary in 1867? And what we discovered, what we kind of chatted about, was Calgary didn't exist in 1867.
Right.
So how can we celebrate Canada's 150th in a place that didn't exist? Alberta wasn't a province. Calgary wasn't even a fort at that time. The Northwest Mounted Police weren't out here at all. The first European hadn't set foot out here. It was Blackfoot territory.
Right.
There was some fur trade going on. There was some whiskey traders and other traders kind of passing through, but there wasn't a whole lot happening. So we thought, why don't we explore how Confederation shaped this area? What were the events that happened after Confederation? And how did that make Calgary what it is?
So hence a lot of these artifacts that were retrieved, obviously a lot of archived photographs that you put together to sort of tell this story. It must have been a bit of a challenge though, I would think, to really tell that story. When can people get down to check out? What are the hours? Are you guys open on weekends? What can they expect?
Yeah, we're open Wednesday to Sunday.
Okay.
So we are 11 to 4 Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and 10 to 4 Saturday, Sunday.
Cool.
If you come on Sunday, that's when Bill is usually there.
And I'll put in a little plug for the restaurant we have there.
Sure.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they're open for lunch and do a wonderful job. But again, if you want to come and see me on Saturdays and Sundays, Sunday when I'm there, they do a wonderful buffet, brunch I mean, and not buffet, brunch. And they have wonderful highlights like Eggs Benedict and Belgian waffles.
Hard to
and
stay away from
just
brunch
about
in my household, that's for sure.
It's a a lot of people do come down. Last Sunday we were very, very busy. I was busy giving tours all day, but there is always room for more.
It's good to hear people are getting involved in the history of their city. I think a lot of people, though, in Calgary don't really realize the rich history of Calgary. Let's start with the name. First off, Caroline, maybe this is a good one for you. Calgary, where'd the name come from to begin with?
Yeah. So, like you said, Calgary was originally called Fort Brisbois,
Right.
After one of the members of the Northwest Mounted Police. It turned out he wasn't very popular. People didn't really like him, and so they thought, we don't want to have our city. People didn't like him. He had a kind of a prickly personality,
Wrong
and they
guy
thought,
for the job. Gotcha.
we don't want to name our city after Brisbois. That doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
And so it was actually James McLeod that named our city Calgary, and he named it after an area in his home country of Scotland.
Right. So the way I understand
Island
it,
of Mull.
the Isle of Mull. And
Yeah.
the word itself, though, it has a meaning, does it not?
Yeah.
I'll help you out. I did a little.
It does.
It
yeah.
does.
Yeah, there's various translations depending on what you look at it, but it's like clear bay, running water, that kind of
that's what I was looking
definition.
for.
Yeah.
And of course, I would only assume that if it is running water, this of course would be based off the Bow River.
Yeah.
That's fair to assume?
Yeah.
And the elbow.
And the elbow, of course. Yeah,
well, I mean, that's why Calgary was located where it was, because it was at the confluence of two rivers, the Bow and the Elbow. If it wasn't for the Bow and the Elbow, we wouldn't be here. The fort wouldn't have been set up here.
Of course.
But again, it was because it really was Blackfoot territory. You know, that's one of their natural camping places.
Made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Sure. Your food sources there.
Any confluence of rivers, that's where
That's right.
people,
Of course,
that's
of
where
course.
people gather. Water is essential. So.
When we think of Calgary, obviously a history of agriculture comes to mind, but in fact, it was the fur trade that really started the ball rolling for Calgary and brought the first European settler here, John Glenn.
Yeah, you're
as
right.
you mentioned, 1873. Is that right? Did I know
Yeah,
that?
1873, I think, is when John Glenn was here, and he had basically like a log cabin. He didn't set up much here.
Yeah.
And you're right, the fur trade was going on in Alberta, but actually the reason that Fort Calgary was established in the first place was to fight the whiskey trade.
Right.
So the fur trade was happening, the legal fur trade was happening. People were trading goods, they were trading furs, but they were also trading whiskey because there was a lot of money in the whiskey trade. And it was mostly American whiskey traders. They would come up across the border, and they had some different forts and things around southern Alberta, and they would trade whiskey with the Blackfoot. And it was obviously the introduction of alcohol to the Blackfoot was hugely detrimental to their health.
You know, a fairly dark period throughout our local history here.
Yeah, yeah.
My understanding is that they would trade whiskey and, of course, reap the benefits of very lucrative trade deals.
Yeah, they became really wealthy off of it. They would trade legal goods as well, so they would have trading posts. The most famous one, of course, is Fort Whoop-Up near modern-day Lethbridge. So because it was close to the American border, they would come across and they would...
Sorry, whoop-up?
Whoop-up.
Whoop-up,
I know,
okay.
yeah. You can go see the historic site. There's not much left of it, but it's near modern-day Lethbridge.
And what would happen at Whoop-up then?
So it was a fort set up by a trading company.
Okay.
And they had set it up as a legal fort, and they would have had other trade goods for sale, but then their biggest business would have been selling whiskey, and that was kind of the illegal side of things. And that's actually the reason the Northwest Mounted Police was formed. A lot of people don't know that, but in the early 1870s, people were coming out and doing tours of Western Canada, and actually somebody named Robertson Ross was sent out by the government to do a tour of Western Canada to see what sort of policing needs there were. And he came across these whiskey trading forts, and he went back and he reported saying, we need to set up forts at these different areas. Fort Macleod was one, Fort Edmonton, and so different areas within Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Okay. And out of that report came the Northwest Mounted Police. They were formed in 1874 essentially to fight the whiskey trade. And they later turned into the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. So that's the origins of
the Redcoats.
Yeah, the Redcoats.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, and so they came out and they went to Fort Whoop-Up and they set up fort at Fort Macleod, so quite close, so they could have a good kind of place to battle that. And they were, I mean, the whiskey trade went on for several years, but they were quite successful. They managed to sort of stem the flow.
So these are predominantly Americans trading whiskey.
Yeah, the interesting thing is actually that if you look at the geography of North America, again, remember, no railroads yet.
Of course.
So, you know, the Northwest Mounted Police actually marched their horses out here and lost quite a number of them.
What a hike.
But they got supplied from Fort Benton, Montana. Fort Benton, Montana is right on the head of the Missouri River, so goods could be barged to Fort Benton and then could be brought up here on bull trains, or oxen as we would call them, and they would actually resupply the Northwest Mounted Police. In fact, the I.G. Baker Company were the ones that came up and constructed the fort, both in Fort McLeod and later Fort Calgary for the Northwest Mounted Police.
When you say I.G. Baker, is this what we commonly would have known as IGA?
No.
Okay.
No relationship at all.
Oh, okay. Pardon.
Yeah, no relationship. But
they were a company that had the first store in Fort Calgary. And actually some of the whiskey traders switched sides, and after the Northwest Mounted Police came, they decided to work for the legal company, I.G. Baker. And so some of the people that actually supplied the material for Fort Calgary and essentially built Fort Calgary were former whiskey traders. And they were building the fort for the Northwest Mounted Police, who were there to fight them.
Wow.
Essentially. So they were very enterprising people.
Yeah, clearly.
Any way to make money.
They saw an opportunity and they went for it. So.
Of course, we're all familiar with some of these old spaghetti Western films of yesteryear. Was there ever a period in Calgary where things were as lawless as depicted in some of the Hollywood
there was
films?
nobody here to be lawless, basically. You know,
that's
really what it
answer,
amounted to.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't. You know, a lot of the people in the U.S. They came out to you know, looking for gold in places like, you know, Nevada City and some of these places, and they were quite lawless places.
Sure.
But you know, Calgary, Fort Calgary was the first thing here as far as a European settlement. You know, the Blackfoot were here, you know, for 10,000 years. But
the police beat them to it.
Kind of. And the development of the West in Canada and the States are quite different. If you look at the treaties, for example, that are signed in the States, they're treaties of war, to end wars, the Indian Wars.
Right.
And the States didn't want to have another Custer's Last Stand, in the massacre. I guess massacre if you're on the Custer's side, massive victory if you're on. You know, but they chose to take a different path to subdue the Indian tribes in the States, and they decided they would take aim at their food supply and started massacring the buffalo. And buffalo, unfortunately, didn't realize that they would have been a lot safer, not totally safe, but a lot safer north of the 49th parallel.
Just based on a lack of people there to really...
Well, and you know, although the Northwest Mounted Police weren't here yet, it really was illegal for the buffalo hunters to come north. Now, they did it anyway. There wasn't many people to stop them. And our own people here, you know, the Métis were also from Manitoba were involved, but the Blackfoot were a very, very powerful nation. You know, it was actually, there were 4 Blackfoot bands that formed the Blackfoot Confederacy, and they kept everybody out, the Cree, the Sioux, and so you know, they had dominance over this whole area, and until the whiskey traders came here, there really wasn't anybody else there.
Stirred things up. Of course, we're going to talk about some of the treaties that were signed, specifically Treaty 7. I want to touch on that in just a moment. We are going to jump to a break, though.
Okay, sure.
Folks, stay with us. We'll be right back.